Hi, it's Dr. Sherri here. I want to take a minute and show you what it looks like to do a functional interpretation of somebody's labs. So this is somebody's labs, something that most people get done on an annual basis, maybe every 2 years, and it looks at everything from cholesterol and blood sugar and liver function. It's just an overall health screen. Now, what I love about looking at these general labs is there's a ton of nutrition information, and people are often surprised by that. It's become commonplace these days that oftentimes we don't even get a copy of these labs, and we're sent something in the mail that says everything looks good, or maybe cholesterol is a little high, and they just highlight a few abnormal pieces of these labs. From a nutritional perspective, there's a ton of information here, lots of things that we can look at and lots of ways that we can really put a good plan together based on somebody's just general screening labs. Now, one of the reasons this works really well is because I'm in the business of wellness and health and disease prevention, and most of these numbers in these labs, we get these reference ranges from a sick population. So when we're looking at lab studies and we're trying to figure out what the optimal ranges are, we usually look at people that are already in the hospitals or in doctor's offices. Not many well people go for their doctor's visits or go into hospitals. So you'll see these ranges are very much based on a disease population. Also, many of these ranges are not very standardized, and I'll give you a good example. On the East Coast, I see a lot of thyroid numbers, TSH, and the top range for TSH tends to be about a 4.5. I noticed when I was on the East Coast going to school, a lot of the ranges in the labs there were 2.5 or 3.0. So you see there's a big difference just with thyroid numbers just from one coast to the next. So a lot of it's just dependent on labs. So we like to look at it from a different perspective and see what kind of information we can pull out. So here's somebody's labs that I looked at, and you can see there's a few things that are flagged here that were abnormal by conventional standards. And then I want to show you a couple things that I saw from her labs. The first one being glucose. This is her fasting blood sugar number, and you'll see while she is not out of range, she is getting close to this 99 number. So we want to keep a real close eye on her blood sugar. We can catch things like type 2 diabetes years before they're ever problematic by looking at numbers like these and really tightening up the range. So we'll definitely want to keep an eye on her blood glucose, and I'll ask her all kinds of questions about how she's handling her blood sugar in terms of how she's feeling after she eats meals, and if her diet is high in sugar, we'll assess if she has weight loss issues. A higher number like this will definitely contribute to somebody's inability to lose weight. Now, if we scroll down a little bit, another thing that we might look at here is her serum iron, and her iron is out of range by conventional perspective. It's definitely out of range from my perspective, and this is really not about dietary intake of iron. Certainly I'm going to ask if she's on any kind of iron supplementation, but this is an acute phase reactant to me. This is something that's showing me she's got inflammation in her body, and that's high serum iron is showing me that. So that's a big clue that something inflammatory is going on. We're going to have to figure out what the cause of that inflammation might be. This person has great cholesterol profile. Her good cholesterol is very good, and her quote-unquote bad cholesterol is low. Now, I do look sometimes at a number like a really high HDL cholesterol. You'll see we want it over 39, and it's 94. So conventionally, nobody would ever say, wow, that good cholesterol is too good. There might not be any such thing as too good, but I'm thinking about it and I'm wondering why it's so high. Is there a process in the body that is upregulating these type of carrier proteins because maybe she's being exposed to a toxin and her body's trying to detoxify? This number, this particle carrier will be upregulated. So I definitely want to look at that, especially in terms of her high iron, because again, seems like there's some kind of inflammation going on, and then the body is trying to upregulate something that, although it's good in normal amounts, it may be too good. We may have something going on here. We come down a little bit further and we look at the thyroid numbers here. And as I mentioned before, her TSH, while it is, this is her thyroid stimulating hormone, while it is good by this set of labs reference range, 3.0, if she's having thyroid symptoms, could be problematic and could be a sign of a sluggish thyroid. We really want to see that number under 2.5. Many people don't do well unless they're closer to 1.5. So depending on symptoms, that might be something we want to look into a little bit. We go to the second page here, and something else that is interesting is her red blood cells. So we've got all of her red blood cell breakdown here. And while only one out of, I don't know, we have maybe 6 numbers here, only one is out of range. By my standards, almost all of these numbers are out of range. And what that shows me is this person in particular has some issues with their red blood cells. They're clearly, to me, not getting enough B12, B6, perhaps folate. So those B vitamin markers are definitely a problem with her. And we'll look into that a little bit more in detail because, again, we have that inflammation process going on. The thyroid seems a little bit sluggish, and she's certainly not processing her B vitamins very well. That's the gist I get from her labs. You can see, although she only had a couple things that were wrong or out from a conventional standard, we definitely saw quite a few more things and a few more areas to focus on with this person. From a nutritional perspective, we can really get her feeling really, really good, get some of these numbers in their optimal range, and get her on the path to health and disease prevention. Thanks.